If you've ever felt like you can't fully leave the house until you check the door one more time, and then one more time after that, this is not just about memory. It may be your brain trying to feel safe. Maybe you already know the stove is off. Maybe you saw the message sent. Maybe you locked the door, closed the window, saved the file, checked the alarm, and still something inside you whispers, "Are you sure?" And the weird part is, checking helps for about 5 seconds. Then the doubt comes back louder. You start feeling tense, distracted, even frustrated with yourself. You may think, why can't I just trust what I saw? If that hits, keep watching, because this pattern is more understandable than you think. Today we're talking about what really happens when you check things repeatedly. There's a well-researched reason why your brain keeps asking for proof, even after you already have it. And by the end, you'll understand the hidden loop underneath the habit, plus one practical shift that can help you step out of it. This is a loop, not your personality. The first sign is simple. You remember doing the thing, but you don't feel settled. You remember locking the door. You remember turning off the light. You remember reading that message twice. But your body doesn't accept the memory as enough. So you go back. Here's where it gets weird. The problem is not always a lack of information. Sometimes, it's a lack of felt certainty. Your brain wants a clean emotional signal. We are safe now. But when the threat system is activated, it treats uncertainty like a problem that must be solved immediately. Maybe you learned early that mistakes had big consequences. Maybe being careful kept you out of trouble. Maybe nobody punished you directly. But you absorbed the idea that being wrong meant something bad about you. So now your brain doesn't just ask, "Did I do it?" It asks, "Can I survive being unsure?" The next sign is subtle, but powerful. You check, and for a moment, you feel better. The door is locked, the email looks fine, the appliance is off, the thing is done. Your chest loosens. But then, a few minutes later, the doubt returns. What if I looked too fast? What if I misunderstood? What if something changed? Most people miss this one. Checking works in the short term, but it can train your brain to ask for checking again. It's like giving your brain a receipt every time it feels scared. The brain learns, when I feel uncertain, I need proof. Over time, the proof has to become stronger, clearer, repeated, or more perfect. And this can come from old conditioning. Maybe you were praised for being responsible. Maybe you were only noticed when you did everything right. Maybe calm only came after you proved yourself. So checking becomes less about the thing itself, and more about earning permission to relax. Another sign. Even when you walk away, your mind keeps reviewing the scene. You replay your hand touching the lock. You replay the sound of the click. You replay the moment you pressed send. Then you zoom in on details that never mattered before. Did I really see it? Was that the right switch? Did I maybe miss something? Here's the twist. The more you inspect a memory, the less solid it can feel. Memory is not a video file. It's more like a reconstruction. When you keep pulling it apart, it can start to feel blurry. That doesn't mean the memory is false. It means your brain is overhandling it. This often connects to a younger version of you who had to stay alert. Maybe you learned to scan people's moods. Maybe you learned to avoid criticism by catching every little detail. That skill may have protected you before. But now, it may be turning ordinary moments into mental investigations. The next sign is where the pressure gets heavy. You don't just think, "I should be careful." You think, "If anything goes wrong, it will be my fault." So you check the lock not just because of the lock, but because your brain creates a whole movie of consequences. You check the message not just because of the message, but because you imagine being misunderstood, rejected, blamed, or exposed. And here's where it gets weird. Your brain may be confusing responsibility with control. Responsibility says, "I'll do my part." Control says, "I must prevent every possible bad outcome." Those are not the same. When you check things repeatedly, your brain may be trying to shrink a future it cannot fully control. This is a loop, not your personality. Maybe in the past, you were made to feel responsible for other people's reactions. Maybe you had to be the careful one, the mature one, the one who noticed everything. So now your brain overfunctions, because underfunctioning once felt unsafe. Another sign. You may ask someone, "Are you sure it's okay?" They say yes. You ask again in a slightly different way. They answer again. You feel calmer, but not completely calm. Then your brain finds a loophole. What if they're just saying that? What if they didn't understand? What if they're wrong too? The next sign is subtle, but powerful. Reassurance can feel comforting, but when fear is running the show, comfort has an expiration date. The brain starts depending on outside confirmation instead of building trust inside. This does not mean you're annoying. It means your brain is trying to borrow certainty from someone else. Often, this comes from not feeling believed, guided, or emotionally steadied earlier in life. Maybe you had to figure things out alone. Maybe you were criticized for needing help. Maybe your feelings were dismissed until you had evidence. So now, your brain keeps searching for someone to say, "You're safe, you did enough, you can stop. This one matters. You may believe, if I still feel anxious, something must be wrong." So you check again, not because new evidence appeared, but because the feeling is still there. But feelings are not always signals. Sometimes they are leftovers. Your body can stay activated after the situation is already handled. Think about waking up from a stressful dream. You know you're in your room. You know nothing happened, but your heart still acts like it did. Same principle. Your emotional system can lag behind reality. Most people miss this one. You are waiting for calm to prove that you're safe. But sometimes calm comes after you stop feeding the checking cycle, not before. This may connect to growing up in environments where calm was rare. If peace always came right before the next problem, your brain may not trust it. So even when life is quiet, part of you keeps looking for the catch. The final sign. You start doing it quietly. You check the door when nobody is looking. You reread the message 10 times. But you joke that you're just being careful. You take screenshots, repeat routines, or mentally review things without telling anyone. Not because you're trying to be dramatic. Because you already feel strange enough inside. Here's where it gets weird. Shame makes the loop stronger. When you hide the pattern, your brain treats it like evidence that something is wrong with you. Then stress rises. Then the urge to check gets stronger. But this pattern is not proof that you're broken. It is proof that your brain has learned a strategy. Maybe that strategy is outdated. Maybe it costs too much now. But at some point, it probably made sense. Maybe checking helped you feel prepared. Maybe overthinking helped you avoid conflict. Maybe perfection helped you feel accepted. The goal is not to hate the pattern. The goal is to understand it clearly enough that it stops running your life. So what do you do with this? Not by yelling at yourself. Not by saying, "Stop being anxious." That usually makes it worse. A better first step is to delay the check. Just a little. If your brain says, "Go check now," you say, "I'll wait 30 seconds. Not forever, just 30 seconds. During that time, you let the uncertainty exist without immediately solving it. This teaches your brain something new. I can feel unsure and still be okay. Then you can slowly stretch the space. 30 seconds becomes 1 minute. 1 minute becomes 5. You are not trying to prove that nothing bad will ever happen. You are teaching your brain that uncertainty is uncomfortable, but not an emergency. That is the shift. From chasing certainty to building tolerance. And that is where freedom starts. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not stupid for checking something you already know you checked. Your brain is doing what brains do, trying to protect you with the tools it learned. The issue is that the tool became too loud. It started interrupting your day. It started stealing your focus. It started making normal life feel like a test you had to pass perfectly. But a mechanism is not an identity. A habit is not a life sentence. A fear response is not your character. You can be a careful person without being trapped by checking. You can be responsible without carrying every possible outcome. You can learn to trust yourself again. Not instantly, but steadily. And no, this does not mean you should never check anything. Reasonable checking is normal. The difference is whether checking helps you move on, or pulls you deeper in. That difference matters. One last thing. The deepest part of this pattern is not the checking. It's the question underneath it. Can I trust myself? That's what your brain is really asking. Not, is the door locked? Not, was the message okay? Not, did I do it right? But, can I handle the feeling of not being 100% certain? And the answer is yes. But your brain may need practice believing it. Every time you pause before checking, you are not being careless. You are building evidence that you can survive uncertainty. You are showing your brain that safety does not have to come from perfect control. When you feel the need to check things repeatedly, pause and ask, am I solving a real problem? Or am I trying to erase a feeling? That question can change the whole loop. I've linked something in the description and pinned comment that I think a lot of you will find genuinely useful. It's a bundle of simple structured guides designed to genuinely help you understand patterns like overthinking, emotional triggers, self-doubt, and the quiet habits your brain uses to feel safe. No fluff, just clear steps you can actually use. And if this video made something click, comment one word: loop. That tells me you're seeing the pattern without judging yourself for it. Like the video if it helped, and subscribe for more psychology explained in a way that feels real, calm, and practical. This video is for educational purposes and not a substitute for professional advice. This is a loop, not your personality. See you there.